Edge of Tomorrow, starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, based on a Japanese novel which in turn was heavily inspired by video games and specifically video game mechanics. Now, the most important part of this review is that this is an action sci-fi movie that is really, really good, and you should see it, if possible, knowing as little about it as possible. I watched it that way, being thrown into the thing with the protagonist and together with him discovering what was actually going on. And I think that's the best way to watch it. And fair warning, the rest of the review will contain some plot details. Not spoilers, maybe, because they're just from the first 20 minutes of the film, but be advised nonetheless. Okay, so the plot of the film is as follows. It's the near future in which a meteor crashed somewhere in Europe. It carried aliens called mimics that have quickly taken over Europe. In a hopeless war, humanity is preparing for a final push from UK into France. Tom Cruise plays Cage, a media spokesperson for the army. The brass wants to send him into the field and as a sort of reporter, but he wants none of that as he's got zero experience in combat. While trying to run away, he gets tased and wakes up on a military base. He then goes through quick and brutal orientation, gets on a plane, drops out on a French beach where it turns out that the soldiers are just getting massacred, and then he dies. And then he wakes up again on the same military base. And from this moment on, it turns out he relives the same day over and over. Whenever he dies, the whole day gets reset and he gets a do-over. With each iteration, he manages to make it a little further, but inevitably dies every time. Finally, on one of his runs, he meets Emily Blunt's character Rita, who seems to know what's going on to him with the whole reset thing, and she tells Cage to find her back on the base as soon as he wakes up again. That's as much as I'm willing to reveal about the story, and as I said, this doesn't go further than the first 20 minutes or so. We then get some more explanation about the mechanics of the story and the end goal that the pair of protagonists will have to achieve. The main thing is this. They progress through the battle by repeating it multiple times, learning patterns, correcting mistakes. It is very much like a video game in that regard, where you learn all the details of a map or of a level before you're able to beat it. And those mechanics are shown in the film in a very consistent and clever way. It also reminds me, and I'm sure other people as well, of Groundhog Day, just in action movie clothes. There's a lot of stuff happening in terms of action and fighting, as may be expected from a Tom Cruise blockbuster, and I'm pleased to say that the pacing of the film is also excellent. There's really not a dull moment throughout, and even though the description I gave you may seem like it gets repetitive after a while, I assure you it does not. Every time Cage, and by extension we, work out another step, there's something new introduced to the plot which throws the whole thing off, and he needs to then rethink the approach, change the pattern and the approach to the situation. It's way more fun and engaging and exciting than I could have anticipated. I just had a blast throughout. Now the film works not just because of those clever mechanics, but also because the rest of the building blocks are top notch. Cruise and Blunt are amazing as always, and so is the chemistry between them. The special effects and action sequences in the film are gripping and fun. There's also a fair bit of humor mixed in. Some of Cage's deaths are very funny, and the film certainly knows when it needs to take itself seriously and when it doesn't. If there's one thing that I would complain about, it's the final 15 minutes. I think the last act is probably the weakest part because it's the most generic of the entire film. It also takes place in near total darkness, so it's kind of difficult to follow the action, as more so than previously. But it's still minor gripe. Even with this slight weakness, I still loved the film and had loads of fun watching it. And apparently, Edge of Tomorrow originally wasn't a smash hit at the box office, which honestly surprises me because it is really solid, a solid mix of action and sci-fi. It is available on Netflix though, so be sure to check it out.